in Gaza and even in South Lebanon and of course in the West Bank, what they are about. You will notice that they're now talking about South Lebanon as northern Israel. So they want to continue taking parts of the Middle East and, making them parts of Israel. So they don't want Palestinians in Palestine. They have said it so many times. And the Smotrich plan, clearly says that only those who agree to live without rights will be allowed to stay. Anyone else that wants human rights will not be allowed to stay.
In the maelstrom of pain, hatred, humiliation, and the snub the hubris, Israel has crossed the invisible line between normative and repetitive war crimes, such as ethnic cleansing, towards the crimes of crimes, genocide. To discuss the implications of the current Israeli genocidal policy against the Palestinian people, I'm pleased to have with me Professor Haim Prashid, who teaches at the School of Oriental and African Studies, known for his support to the rights of the Palestinian people and opposition to the Zionist colonial power of Israel. Professor Haim was also arrested by the British police for his activism against the Israeli genocide against Gaza. You are welcome to our program, Mr. Haim.
Thank you.
You wrote that the Israeli genocidal war against the Palestinian people did not start in 1948 or 1967 or 2023. It started long ago, as genocide is orchestrated by the Western colonial power against the Palestinian people since the start of this century. So you think that what's happening, in particular in Gaza today, has been long planned and programmed and designated?
I think it's in the nature of Zionism. Zionism always planned to get rid of the Palestinians, to take over all of Palestine, and to get rid of the Palestinians. This is even before 1917 and the Balfour Declaration. That was the plan. Things don't work out exactly according to plan, of course. And I think in the Zionist plans, it's supposed to be easy to remove the Palestinians. It proved not to be easy. The Palestinians didn't play the role that the British and Zionism has written for them, and refused to leave Palestine. And so force was used and genocide was used in this ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. And it was a very long process. It started with removing villages. You will probably remember that in 1926, 26 villages were moved in the valley of Jezreel. The people, the villages of those 26 villages were attacked by the British army and the the Zionist militia, Haganah, because they refused to leave their villages, and force was used, and they had no choice. So this is a very, very long process, more than 120 years, and in parallel with removing the Palestinians from their land. The Zionists didn't just want Palestine, but they wanted it empty of Palestinians, and this is going back to the beginning of Zionism. So at the beginning, they removed them village by village, town by town, as they bought the land from absentee landowners that lived in Syria or in Lebanon or some in Cairo. And as they sold the land to the Zionist movement, all of a sudden, the land that didn't belong to these landowners, it was the land of the villages lost their homes. So this is a very long process, taking more than 120 years. But now what we see in Gaza, and of course in other areas, now also in Lebanon, of course in the West Bank, is something that could not be foreseen and could not also be foreseen for its brutality, its violence, its total madness in the operation. So even those of us, like myself, who are have been acting as anti-Zionist activists for many, many decades, could not have foreseen the level of brutality and cruelty that Israel is using. So this is totally unprecedented. And of course, we know that the number of people who died in Gaza is not 45,000, but probably 10 times, if not more. There were many articles written about why the number is kept very low, both by Hamas and by Western media outlets. They don't want to admit the real number that were killed in Gaza. So we now see something which didn't happen anywhere in this century, or even in the latter part of last century. This is without precedent.
Yes, and Mr. Rashid, this leads me to the second question. You mentioned that Israel was trying to take the Palestinian people out of Palestine and implement its colonial project on every part of Palestine, but it failed until now. But against the backdrop of the brutality and the cruelty that Israel is using against the people in Gaza and in the West Bank, because while we are speaking now, dear Rashid, the Israeli occupation forces are killing people in Jenin and destroying the infrastructure housing units in Jenin in the north of the West Bank. Today, Israeli settlers set fire to Palestinians' property in Al-Maz'a al-Gharbiyya village, here near Ramallah. So do you think that Israel now is going to complete its mission of genocide and forcing the Palestinians out in Gaza, and if not from all the West Bank, parts of the West Bank, as Smotrich mentioned, concerning settlements, I mean?
I don't think there is any doubt about it. I suggest that no one should be confused about what the Israelis want to do. This is the most criminal government anywhere on earth. It is supported by the whole West, who finances it and arms it and agrees with the genocide and doesn't do anything to fulfill its legal obligations to prevent genocide under the Genocide Convention. So, I live in Britain. The British Prime Minister is a supporter of Israel. He is a Zionist, as he said himself, and he is a very fervent supporter. And that's why, since he came to power, a lot of us are being arrested for supporting Palestine and speaking against this terrible genocide. So we shouldn't be confused. That's what they want to do. They want to get as many Palestinians as they can, and it depends on the rest of the world if we are to allow it. And I don't think we should allow it. I think we should shout every day and every hour and bring some justice. After 76 years of the existence of Israel, enough is enough. Yeah. And I think the international community must stop this.
Yes, and a follow-up question, dear Rashid. You mentioned the position of the government, and many international governments are giving Israel a cover-up for its genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people, while the public opinion, mainly in the Western countries, is fully different. Demonstrations every day in support of the Palestinians' rights, pressuring their parliaments and governments to pressure Israel to stop its genocide. So do you think that Israel is going to have the ability to bypass the public opinion pressure around the world and finish off its mission of genocide?
Well, I'm afraid that at the moment we don't see any relationship between what people are saying in the streets and in their homes, where they support Palestine in great numbers. 72% of the British public is supporting Palestine, full stop. They have no doubt that this is genocide, that it's illegal, and that it's inhuman, and it should be not allowed. This is what people in Britain, in France, in the United States are saying in great numbers.
And will this thwart the plan of Netanyahu and his government?
I wish I could say yes. I really wish I could. But at the moment, after 14 months of this terrible action, we have to realize that the governments are not listening to their people. These are not democracies. The West is not democratic. The West is actually illegally criminal. And we can't really wait for Mr. Biden or Mr. Trump or Sir Keir Starmer or anyone in the West to do anything legal. They are acting illegally. And so I don't know how we can force them to do what they must do. We have tried everything in this country. Millions of people went into the streets week after week. I've been on all the demonstrations, apart from the one I couldn't go because I was arrested. It's amazing how many people from all parts of the society in Britain are in the streets. It doesn't have any effect on the government of Keir Starmer or on the government in Europe or in the US. It is a terrifying sight to see the failure of Western democracy.
Yes, and Mr. Bashir, you wrote, for Israel, walking backwards to the status quo ante is out of the question. What do you mean by that? To the situation before October 23?
Before October 23, it was difficult to see how Israel can act legally and rationally, because on October the 8th, they could have finished it. They could have negotiated with Hamas. Hamas was ready to negotiate with Israel. It wanted to negotiate for the release of Palestinian prisoners. There are more than 10,000 of them. They are actually more numerous than the Israelis taken by Hamas to Gaza. So Hamas was prepared to negotiate, and it wanted to negotiate not a ceasefire, but a political solution. Israel has never been ready to discuss a political solution, never, ever, since 1948. It did not want and did not mean to discuss a political solution. So even before the 7th of October, Israel was hopelessly illegal and insensitive to the fact that they have in Hamas and in Ramallah people that are ready to discuss life together in a just peace, not in an Israeli peace, in a just peace where the Palestinians are equal. But Israel doesn't want it.
Yeah. So do you think that
after the 7th of October?
Yeah. So do you think that the Israeli occupation government headed by Benjamin Netanyahu is about genocide? Genocide is the only option that they have on the Israeli agenda and on the Israeli table, or they have another option, which is unjust peace, to annex all the settlements in the occupied West Bank, reshape the situation in Gaza, and keep the Palestinian citizens in the large communities, I mean the central cities. What do you think?
I don't think that they want the second solution that you suggested. I think they are now showing in Gaza and even in South Lebanon and of course in the West Bank what they are about. You will notice that they are now talking about South Lebanon as northern Israel. So they want to continue taking parts of the Middle East and making them parts of Israel. So they don't want Palestinians in Palestine. They have said it so many times, and the Smotrich plan, clearly says that only those who agree to live without rights will be allowed to stay. Anyone else that wants human rights will not be allowed to stay. So this is a plan of genocide, and now they think that they have the chance to complete it with the Americans supporting them. I don't see them stopping it.
Yes, and my final question to you, dear Prashit, the Western world was having an idea that Israel is the only democracy, the civilized, the technologically advanced state in the Middle East. Now, while they are watching, I mean the Western world watching now the Israeli crimes and the crime of crimes really against the Palestinians, do you think now the image they have about Israel is different from before 23? And in light of that, can we project the example of South Africa on the Palestinian struggle and start the struggle anew against apartheid in chief, Israeli occupation?
Well, you see, Israel was never a democracy. A democracy allows everyone the same rights.
Yes.
The Palestinians living under Israeli control.
But this was the image. I mean, this was the image in the Western
it was the image.
mentality. Yeah.
It still is the image in the mind of Biden or Trump. But that's just an invention. This is a myth. There was never an Israeli democracy, and now the only thing they democratically agree on is the genocide.
Yeah.
They don't agree with each other on anything else. So Israel is not a democracy, was not a democracy. And I think the comparison to South Africa is not working, because in South Africa, the government realized at a certain point that they have to get rid of apartheid, because the whole world doesn't agree with them. And they did it. In order to stay in power, they got rid of apartheid, and they got Nelson Mandela out of prison and had an ANC government. And that saved South Africa as a country and as a nation. The Israelis don't realize this. They don't have the wisdom that people in South Africa that were leading it had. And therefore, they don't want to stop the apartheid. They don't want to stop the genocide. They think that they can get rid of all the Palestinians. So I think to compare it to South Africa, unfortunately, is not working.
Yes.
The people are all for Palestine in the West, and of course elsewhere, definitely billions of them. But the governments are totally supporting the crimes of Israel.
A lot of tragedies and a lot of pessimism, Mr. Prashit. So no way out.
No, there is a way out.
Which is?
I don't agree. The way out is, first of all, we have to persuade people to stop supporting Israel. And this has happened in Spain. This has happened in Ireland. This is happening in other European countries.
Norway.
And I think we can do that. That's true, yeah. We can do that. And we must work harder. Total BDS, total break with Israel, no embassies, no ambassadors, no trade with Israel, no arms, nothing. That's the way to win this. And also, remember that the Israelis are so divided between themselves. Israel is a totally it's a society in free fall. They are not in control. They are not in control of the economy. They're not in control of the police. The police is basically a fascist force that is now serving the extreme right. Israel will and Zionism will implode from within. We need to prepare for that moment, and the Palestinians especially need to be ready to have the political arrangements that will allow life after Zionism. We need to continue the struggle. Despite the suffering, or because of the suffering of Gaza and the West Bank and in Lebanon and everywhere else in the region that Israel is attacking, we need to be ready to take over life when Zionism is finally collapsing. And I think, I want to believe that I'll see it in my lifetime.
Prof. Bashir, it has been a great honor having you on our program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And from you, Osama Nazal, have a nice time.